I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as Trustee Gabe Reese gives our invocation.
Almighty God, we acknowledge that you will hold us to account for the way we legislate and administer the affairs of our township and its fine people. We pray for your guidance as we do so. We pray that you would find us protecting the rights of all at all times, that our community and this nation will fulfill all of your purposes. Amen.
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 Clerk Sanders, please take the roll.
Treasurer Kavanaugh. Here. Clerk Sanders here. Trustee Jackson.
Here.
Trustee Reese.
Here,
Trustee Taylor.
Here.
Trustee King.
Here.
Supervisor McCray.
Here. Quorum is present. Next is the approval of the agenda.
To the chair?
Trustee Taylor.
To the chair.
Okay. Clerk Sanders.
Thank you.
Okay.
I move to amend the agenda to add polling location change under the new business as item number 4.
Okay. So, there's a motion to,
Support.
okay, support. All in favor say aye.
It's 4 new business.
For new business. Everybody should have,
Yes.
everybody should have a copy of the amended.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have citizen comments. This is 3 minutes. This is a listening exercise, so we're going to listen to what everybody has to say about whatever the issue is. So, Ryan Bedinsky? Bednarski. All right, sorry about that, Ryan.
Okay. Ryan Bednarski, 12831 Brady, Redford, Michigan, 48239. It's been a long road to get here, almost 13 months. I'd like to take a moment to thank the group of the people that helped along the way with the front yard ordinance. I just want to say thank you to the Planning Commission members, Harold Pagel, Jennifer Lawson, Nancy McLean, Sean Griffin, Heather Christie, David Allen, Jennifer McNeff, and Trustee Kim Taylor. Board members, Trustee Gabriel Rees, Clerk Carla Sanders, Supervisor Pat McCray, Treasurer Lily Kavanaugh, Trustee Linda Jackson, and Trustee Edward King. Planning Consultant Representative Jason Smith, Director of Public Services Mike Dennis, Building Department Superintendent Jeff Corbin, Citizens Hunter Light, Ken Stevens, Linnea Van Duzen, Jim Bailey, Anjanette Davenport Hatter, John Keenan, Angela Maureen Lowry, David Valencia, Alexandra Tank, Ryan Pettit, Chris Mills, Carla Thomas Penn, Molly Masson, Nava Renaud Furman, Coco de la Cruz, Anna Auger, Morgan Shea Tuscu, Michael Marsh, and Michael D'Arcangelo, and many more. I thank you all for your time, support, and assistance.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Next, we have Chris Flowers. Make sure you give your name and address for record. Thank you.
My name is Chris Flowers. I live at 11340 Kinlock, which is just down the street from the Dairy Whip, the south part of Redford. I've been living there for 34 years now. And I have noticed in the last probably 10 to 15 years that people already are having a very hard time maintaining their lawns, their front lawns, their bushes. I mean, people are already, they can't even keep their lawn cut half the time. And the bushes are so tall, they're over the front windows of the house. And at least several houses on my block are already like this. So I'm worried what would happen, where would we draw the line if we were to have this, encourage people to grow things on their front lawn? The problem would get even worse. I mean, people would just forget about maintaining their front yards, at least a lot of people would. And they would just say, oh, this is my version of growing my garden, my free garden or whatever. So I don't know exactly what are the criteria, or if there are certain specifications you have, you know, if it going to be an raised bed, or is it going to be is there already rules like that in place? I mean, so I mean, how would you differentiate between that and someone, you know, like not maintaining their house or whatever? That's my main point.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Scott White.
Good evening. Scott White, 14910 Seneca. I wanted to start by saying that I'm not opposed to vegetable gardening. I think growing your own food is fun, healthy, and something residents should be encouraged to do. My concern is more about expanding vegetable gardens into front yards and whether the township can realistically and consistently enforce standards that would come with that change. Redford already has ordinances intended to protect neighborhoods and overgrown vegetation, debris, improper storage, deteriorated property conditions, and other forms of blight. Yet I think many residents would agree that enforcement of our existing ordinances is already inconsistent. So before we add another permitted use that will require additional enforcement, I think we should ask a basic question. Does the township currently have the resources and objective standards necessary to enforce it fairly and consistently? A vegetable garden may look beautiful and well-maintained in June or July, but what happens in October or November or December? When do dead tomato vines become overgrown vegetation? When does a garden that hasn't been harvested become a property maintenance violation? What distinguishes a native plant from a weed? What about tomato cages, stakes, fencing, netting, hoses, buckets, or empty raised beds? These decisions are much more subjective than measuring the height of grass or determining whether a vehicle is illegally parked. And when enforcement is subjective and resources are limited, enforcement tends to become complaint-driven. One property may remain untouched because no one complains, while another homeowner receives a citation for essentially the same conditions. That isn't fair to the residents, and it isn't fair to the ordinance officers who have to interpret vague standards. I would support a reasonable compromise. For example, attractive edible herbs, tomatoes, etc., that could be incorporated into the landscaping, or perhaps a limited number of well-defined raised garden beds that could be allowed, without turning an entire front yard into an agricultural space. But whatever standard we adopt, it should be objective, measurable, and realistically enforceable. I've submitted a one-page data summary from Redford Township's own public records. I'm not offering these examples as criticism of our ordinance officers. In fact, I think the data points to the opposite problem. We are asking a small number of staff to cover a very broad enforcement workload. As of Monday, August 24th, Redford's C-Click Fix system lists 61 non-closed requests, including yard and vegetation cases that have remained in acknowledged status for 2 or 3 months, and in some cases even longer. The township also states in its standard response that requests are prioritized based on the availability of township resources. My concern is not whether a well-kept vegetable garden can look attractive. It can.
Okay, you need to wrap up, sir,
My-
because you're
yes.
past your 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
My concern is whether we should expand a subjective front yard use before we are confident that the township has the staffing and clear measurable standards to enforce it consistently. Before expanding the ordinance, I would ask the board to first demonstrate that it consistently enforce property maintenance ordinances that are already on the books, and only then decide how far front yard gardening should be expanded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a special presentation, first quarter budget review. Director O'Connor.
Thank you, Supervisor McCray. Included in your packet, honorable board members, were 2 graphs, one on revenue and one on appropriations based on category, showing you what the budget is for the year, what the activity was for the first quarter of fiscal year 2027, and what the activity was last year for the first quarter of fiscal year 2026. If you're looking at the graph on the revenue side of things, you'll notice that the charts for the first quarter comparisons, they're so close to each other that in every category except for one, they're virtually right on top of each other. And in the one category where they aren't on top of each other, which is property taxes, that's really primarily simply a function of the timing of when we receive the DTNs from Wayne County for the delinquent taxes that were turned over to Wayne County. So it's just a timing issue. There isn't really a change there. I think all of those categories look exactly the way we would expect them to look at this point in the year. I don't have any questions or concerns on the revenue side. On the appropriation side, on the other side, the second graph, really kind of the same thing. You'll notice again that the first quarter expenditures for the first quarter of this year and the first quarter of last year are so close to each other that they are virtually right on top of each other, the two lines. I don't really see any concerns there either. This is always, I'm required, of course, to do by law, to do it at the minimum, a quarterly budget review. This is always the one that is kind of the simplest because we're so early into the year. This is the meeting though that kind of kicks off, several meetings over the next several meetings with you. We have the audit presentation coming up. We have the tax levy setting in September. We'll have the mid-year budget review coming up here. And so you will, for better or worse, be hearing a lot from me in the meetings to come. But unless there's any questions, I don't have any concerns where we are in the first 3 months of this year.
Questions from the board?
To the chair.
Trustee Reese.
Just a point of clarification for residents, our fiscal year starts in what month?
April
So
1st.
that's why even though it is August, we're early in our fiscal year, which is why we're seeing this kind of,
Exactly. Yep. So this is covering April, May, and June.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from the board? Director Bonner, I guess you've done a great job. Nobody has questions.
I'll take it. Thank
Okay.
you.
again.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much. Good job. Next, we have a special presentation from MERS, Jamie LaFavor. Floor is yours, ma'am.
Good evening, actually. Thank you for having me, and I wanted to start off by apologizing that I did not make it for the meeting on the 11th, but I appreciate you having me out tonight. I see some familiar faces. My name is Jamie LaFavor. I'm your regional manager with MERS. And so we do have the 12/31/25 annual evaluation that provides the state of your pension plan. So my agenda tonight is just to go over that, give you the highlights, and then answer any questions you may have.
Okay.
Okay, I believe everyone has the evaluation in their board packet. So this is a measurement of the plan, as I stated, as of 12/31/25. It does provide your rates effective April 1st of 2027. And that's the contribution rates that the township will pay towards the pension plan. I like to skip ahead to page 6 of the report. That is the start of the executive summary, and so that gives the funded level of the plan. You did see an increase in your funded level this year. You went from 58% in 2024 to 60% in 2025. The next page there on page 7, that gives a comparison of your contribution rates from 24 to 25. You will see an increase in about 72,000 throughout the year, and we can cover why that is further on in the report. Below that's your employee contribution rates. A slight change there, but my understanding is that's more of just us catching up our records than really a change. So that remained consistent. The next page, page 8, that goes over a little bit of how the defined benefit plan works. And just for anyone that's not familiar, I'll hit the high levels. You will see a change in your contribution rates each year that these annual evaluations are produced. Reasons behind that could be changes in your benefit provisions in the plan, changes in the actuarial assumptions that MERS uses, and then the actual experience of the plan compared to our assumptions. So just a high level there. We had one assumption change that is present in the 2025 valuation, and that is that assumed rate of return. We did lower that from 6.93% down to 6.79%. That goes along with what we have called a dedicated gains policy, and that means that in years where we exceed our assumed rate of return, we will buy down that rate if the MERS board chooses to do so and the actuaries advise it. So per that policy, we did do that to the 6.79%. That's a little bit where you're seeing tension on that increased budget requirement that I mentioned in the previous page. But overall, it was a really good year. The actuarial smooth rate of return that you're seeing in this valuation is 8.18%, and the market rate of return for 2025 was 15.25%. The reason that you are seeing 8.18% recognized in this valuation is because we use a 5-year smoothing. So you recognize 1 year in this valuation and then in the next 4 years. Okay? The next page that I'll stop at is 11. I just like to point out on this page that the funded level, we did have a market loss in 2022 due to that smoothing factor. I'd just like to point to the valuation year ending 2027 with your fiscal rates 2029. That is when that loss is fully recognized, and you'll see the funded level of the plan is projected to steadily go up at that point. And you will recognize that the funded level in this table is a little bit lower than that executive summary. That's because your surplus assets are not recognized in this table here. The next page, page 12, this is where we give you a projection of your funded level as well as your employer contributions. So you are projected, all assumptions met, to be 100% funded in about 2038. And then you will see contributions climb to about 4.5 billion until they drop off in 2039. And that is due to our fixed amortization mechanism that we have in place. Okay, and then the next page, page 13, that's where we start getting into the tables in the report. That is the required contribution, so we already kind of hit on that when we looked at that comparison, but that's just broken down by the normal cost, which is the cost to grant another month or year of service, and then the unfunded liability. Next few pages, so pages 15 through 18 are the benefits that you have in place in each of your divisions. Nothing has changed in these from 24 to 25. So everything did remain consistent. Page 19 through 20 is your census data. So this is where we break down the number of actives, former vested, retirees, and pending refunds in the plan. Overall, no huge significant changes. You added 9 actives and then lost 2 former vested, had 4 retirees add to the plan, and then 2 pending refunds. Next page, 21, that is just if you want to see the plan and the market value of assets rather than the actuarial, which is what the entire report is based on. Page 22 is table 5. That is your flow of assets. And so that's where you can see the assets coming into the plan and leaving the plan. Overall, you had about 3.2 million coming into the plan. And you had 4.5 rounding going out of the plan for retiree payments. And then a few employee refunds. Table 6, the next page there, on page 23, that breaks down your funded level by division. So those employee groups are broken down. You can see that last line item there is that surplus division that I talked about. And that is what's showing that increased funded level in that executive summary. Tables 7 and 8, which are charts on page 25. This is just an historical view of the plan, so it gives you the history of the accrued liability, the assets, and then the funded level. Table 7 gives you that for the township as a whole. Tables 8 and 9, again, break that down by division, and that goes all the way through to page 37. Table 10 is the amortization table. So all of your plans are actually on a 15-year amortization. And so what that means is that each new layer that we recognize in a year will be amortized over 15 years. When I mentioned that steep drop-off in that projected chart in the beginning of the report, That is taking into account that initial UAL that you'll see, if you look at page 37, every division, unless it's been 100% funded or was a newly created division, will have initial unfunded liability, and that is when that big chunk is paid off. That's when MERS moved from a rolling amortization to a fixed. So that's why you're seeing that drop off there. And all your divisions follow the same pattern. So outside of that, we get into your GASB information on page 47. I know that's more of an auditor function, but we put that in there. Page 49 starts your benefit provision history so that you can see the benefits and how they've changed in the plan throughout the years. And then the last page I will point you to is, the last page is your state reporting. Everything else is really just historical in the plan. So it was just a really quick, high-level overview. Do you have any questions?
To the chair.
Trustee Reese.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah.
A lot of information, and I'll admit that it's like a lot of it's right over my head, trying to chew through it. So you said, based on the current rates and expectations, we should be fully funded by 2038?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's assuming obviously no major market downturn. That's kind of hoping things are either kind of just keep going how they're going.
Yep, the actuarial caveat there is it's assuming that all assumptions are met. So we know there's going to be a deviation, right? But yeah, barring any huge market downturn or on the flip side, additional contributions from the township, anything like that, that is the projection that you're on.
Okay.
Yep.
But just to make sure that Trustee Reese understands this piece, so we're kind of required to be at 100% funding, because that's the end of our amortization period. So if the markets were to go down, and so the assumption that we're gonna receive the 6.79%, return doesn't happen, then the amount that we will have to put in, right,
Yes.
to contribute will go up, because we still have to get to 100% funded by 2038.
Okay, that's helpful to know. So it's a hard date. It has to be 2038.
Yes.
And so,
We have a little bit of wiggle room because we have that surplus funding in there, right? But
Because we
only
made
by a
extra
year
contributions, is that
or
right?
two, right? And exactly. And so we've made extra contributions. We continue to try to do that when we can, so that it will hopefully lessen our year-over-year tax burden.
okay.
Yeah, and Adam, you're exactly right, but just to say another way too, you may not be 100%, you're not mandated to be 100% funded in 2038, just because we know those layers are going to add on. So those are obviously going to vary depending on the year's experience. But that initial unfunded liability that we saw on that table, that is mandated based off of
Yeah.
amortization to be paid off.
So right, so if it isn't 100, it could be 98, but it'll be really close.
In the ballpark.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
But there's not a hard fast rule that you have to be 100, but you'll be very close.
And once we're funded, our contributions drop significantly.
Yeah, I think that was like page
Yeah.
10 or so. You see a chart
10 or
where it shows that when you get to that,
Flat.
it goes, shoom, it just drops
Yeah.
dramatically.
Yep.
So we're gonna have to pay it no matter what, and it's kind of a question of when we pay it to get to that 100%, and whether the market's good while we do it or bad while we do it.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Other questions from the board? A lot of information,
It is a lot.
a lot of
Yes.
information. But the good news is we're in pretty good shape.
You are, yes, you're in good
That's
shape.
the most important thing.
All right, well, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I don't,
It's online.
It's online.
Is that online?
Yep.
On the website?
Mm-hmm.
Very good, I'll look at it, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda, Treasurer Kavanaugh.
Thank you Supervisor McCray. I move to approve the consent agenda items as follows. The minutes for the regular meeting held on August 11th of 2026. The warrant list of bills as of August 25th of 2026 in the amount of $6,595,566.21.
Hold on. Excuse me, Mr. Keenan, you got a meeting here. Go out in the hall. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Number 3, annual MERS conference being held on October 8th through the 9th of 2026 at the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel in Grand Rapids. Selected management delegate, Adam Bonarak with no alternate this year, and selected employee delegate Katie Holder with Matt Kosar as the alternate.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we move to unfinished business. Director Dennis.
Mr. Supervisor, Honorable Board, tonight we are meeting for the second reading of the proposed text amendment to the zoning ordinance, Article 3, Section 3.05, for front yard use. I want to bring up, just to let the board know that Jason Smith could not be here tonight. He is on a previously scheduled vacation. Adam Young, who is a senior planner with Wade Trim, who's been working with us as well, is here as well if there are any questions. So in front of you is a red line version of the proposed amendment, which is what was presented at the first reading 2 weeks ago. It is in the ordinance template, and I do have the versions that were presented to you, 2 weeks ago.
Discussion?
To the chair.
Trustee Taylor.
I move that we approve the second reading of the proposed text amendment of the zoning ordinance, Article 3, Section 305, front yard use.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any other discussion?
To the chair.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
I would like, there's been quite a bit of chatter, and I would like to read a statement really quickly. It's extremely sad and upsetting that people are prone to bullying. As a full-time employee, I make sure to look out for Redford residents and Redford's employees who get the brunt of the people's anger. Those that have paid attention know that one of my biggest concerns is enforcement. I repeat, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This is one more thing that neighbors are going to fight about. We have gone over this subject many times and have stated how I felt early on. Shame on people that don't want to hear that I don't agree. A good working board is one that we all accept and respect each other's opinion. For we take pride in going over the good points, the bad points, and the questionable points. We are not all going to agree 100% of the time. You want to feed your neighbors? Consider starting up the community gardens again. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Hearing nothing, roll call vote.
Trustee Jackson?
No.
Treasurer Kavanaugh?
No.
Trustee Taylor?
Yes.
Trustee King?
No.
Trustee Reese?
Yes.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Supervisor McCray?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, new business number 1.
Thank you,
That would
Mr.
be
Supervisor.
Director Bonner.
Thank you. Before you this evening is a request to approve a contract and a proposal with BSNA Software. I did my best to try to summarize what we're trying to do in a memo. I don't know whether or not I was successful at doing so. This was a more complicated task than I anticipated to be. Treasurer Kavanaugh, Assistant Director Harper, and I, and really our IT team, this has really been an ongoing discussion now for 3 or 4 years. That we've been talking about the need to not only upgrade our ERP system, which is BSNA, from being a local server-based system to being something that's in the cloud, for a wide range of reasons, including access, updates, security, and all those types of things, but also in connection to that, what that would mean for our overarching IT environment. There are other things that we would like to upgrade and do to make our systems more secure than they are currently, that we really couldn't move forward with those things until we made a decision on this piece of the puzzle. And so I'm glad that I finally now have a recommendation to bring you regarding this piece of the puzzle. Because BSNA is a system that we really use in every single department of the township every single day. So it was, this was a massive undertaking. And we debated and we met with some vendors about going with a competitor of BSNA. And the biggest issue that we ran into is it's certainly not that BSNA has a perfect product, but it's that they're the only ones that really offer a product that kind of covers everything. And if we went with any other vendor, while they might be able to cover 2 or 3 of the 5 main pieces, they wouldn't be able to cover all 5. And so then I have a hodgepodge system, which then introduces different security issues into the mix, and it introduces issues of compatibility, and now people have to learn multiple systems. Multiple systems could go down instead of one system. It's just, we realized that that just was not going to be the way to look at this. Treasurer Kavanaugh and I have been meeting for quite some time with our account rep with BSNA, and we feel comfortable with this proposal. There really are 2 components to it. It's a 5-year contract, and so there are components that are the initial implementation costs that are a one-time cost. That money has currently already been set aside and is sitting in the 402 capital fund, because over the past several years, I knew we would be doing this, so we've been adding a little bit to that every year for the last several years. And then on an ongoing annual basis, the subscription fee that we pay, that is allocated between all of the funds and departments that use the system. The full implementation of this is really going to kind of stretch over 3 fiscal years. So there will be the initial deposit that we will pay here in fiscal year 27 that will come out of the 402 fund. Then there will be the primary chunk that will be paid in fiscal year 28 that will also primarily come out of the 402 fund. And then in fiscal year 29, when we are fully into the new system, then it'll be back to its regular subscription-based model, and that'll come out of all of the funds kind of as a whole. That is the summary I have for you. Do you have any questions for me?
To the chair.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
I have a comment. I also want to thank Director Bonarack in that we are sending a couple of employees to a conference in order to encompass all of what BSNA has to offer. Several years, we've only been, scratching the surface, where they can come back and be able to tell people or the other employees exactly what they've learned, how to use. And not only that, BSNA also offers recap of the system and how to use their modules. But again, it's been a long road.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, Treasurer Kavanaugh, because that really is, and this really, because this will impact every single employee, it is going to be a massive lift to implement this. And we know that from a financial perspective, the only time that we can really do this is in the period after the completion of the audit, before we start the new fiscal year. So it will be implemented next year in the fall. But it'll take us the next several months to really work with BSNA and all of the departments to kind of come up with what does that implementation plan look like? How do we map it out so that we have a smooth transition? And then within this proposal, you may have seen is that there is several weeks of on-site training from BSNA to train and teach all of our employees how to use the new system. So it is a very comprehensive proposal. And BSNA has been offering this, they call it their Engage Conference. And so we kind of worked to identify who were kind of 2 key people this year that we knew, and we didn't want it to be senior directors because we're not the ones who are using BSNA at the really detailed level. So we're sending our senior accountant, Rita Cheedy, and we're sending one of Treasurer Kavanaugh's staff members, George Hutton, who's kind of become their frontline tech person within the water department this year. Which I know they're both excited about that. That's a neat opportunity that staff at that level don't normally get to go to a conference like that.
Yep. Thank you.
Anything else from the board?
To the chair.
Trustee Jackson.
Director Bonner, how does going from locally based to the cloud increase security?
It increases security because going to this system, we're going in with BSNA's servers, which they use, they're using the same security suite and system that Amazon uses. So you're getting that level of protection versus what we could create at our own systems.
How much of an increase for the annual fee?
It'll be about $100,000 split between, again, multiple funds and departments. And that won't really hit our budget for another couple of fiscal years. So it's $100,000 from today, but I don't have any way of knowing right now, if we didn't do the upgrade, our current system would be more expensive too. So the actual net impact will be less than that, but I can't tell you exactly what.
But much more efficient.
Yes. Much, because right now, we have employees who use multiple modules, but in order to do that, you kind of have to log in and work with each module as an individual entity. The way the cloud-based system works, if you have access to 4 different modules out of the 12 that we use, you'll have all of it within your dashboard. So it's more seamless and integrated across the board.
To the chair?
Yeah.
Already done? Yeah. Oh, and also, just to add it, the fact that we're going digital with a lot of the functions. Let's say I work with the water department where they have work orders, that the guys are going to be having tablets where it won't be paper. And so that too is going to load the system as well, to have all that instead of having a paper document in a folder. So.
Right, so right now, if a resident calls the water department because they call to pay their water bill and they have an issue that we have to send the team out to handle, right? The Treasurer Kavanaugh staff, they don't have access to the module that the field staff have, so they have to document that by paper, and then so it has to be documented, then the other staff has to re-enter it. It's a manual process. Now, they'll be able to just flag that within the system and just alert the person.
Yep, so,
To the chair.
thank you.
Trustee Reese.
I'm sorry if I jumped in earlier. You mentioned there are forthcoming cost savings with not having a server rack that we're supporting. Do we have any idea what we're paying per year for power, new equipment and security?
Yeah, it averages, I think, right, based on the conversations that Mohammed and I have had, because the other pieces of this is that, we'll be moving to SharePoint.
Okay.
And OneDrive for all of our other services
Great.
too, right, which we don't currently do. And so, but even just based on, we think just the BSNA servers that we're using right now is $30,000 to $50,000 a year.
Okay.
So
Wow.
So even out of that $100,000 a year increase, I can take off $30,000 to $50,000 a year because I won't have to maintain our own servers.
And to add to the security and cloud-based advantages, think about, you have a physical place that can be burned or soaked with water, or as these cloud providers, you get geographic pairs where they have it local to you and then they save it in Arizona so that if anything happens, you always have a secure backup. So I think.
Yep.
And then, like you mentioned, basically single sign-on security where you're using your phone to authenticate so that you can't write password 123 on a sticky note and that gets found and now our whole system is compromised. It's actually kind of the idea is something you have and something you are. And so my phone and my face are my password to get in.
Right.
It's a step in the right direction because these kind of vulnerabilities, especially with AI, are going to get exploited way more.
And just to that, because we have a whole multi-factor authentication project that's underway right now too, separately, and technology change is hard.
Yeah.
People are not happy about this, but especially in the world of AI, we have to do these things.
Yeah, it'll figure it out faster than any human could. So we
Right.
have to.
To the chair,
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
one more thing, and this is getting in the weeds. Because what's going to alleviate also is that our current servers, especially the one that I deal with in the building department, is climate regulated. It beeps when it gets too hot. So with alleviating some of the load, it's going to help that as well. Because I don't know the server upstairs, how that, is treated, but that one in particular, with all the work that we do down there, it does alleviate the load and the temperature, so just so you know.
Good to know.
Anyway.
Other questions from the board? I have somebody in the audience. You have to come up here, sir. Give your name and address for the record. Thank you.
It's actually a question for the gentleman up front speaking for us and the board also. My name is Sean Helms.
Is this got to do with this particular subject?
Yeah, yes, for this.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious about the funding with it, and I'm a little confused because, I'm for it and also against loss because, apparently our township has issues with funding and police force, with crime. Does this issue has anything to do with the flock cameras at all that I'm for?
No.
No.
I'm curious about the funding because I know we're lacking funding for police force and we're having a lot of issues. It's a safe place, but we're having issues.
Okay.
So I was just personally curious as a resident myself if this has anything to do with it, with the funding and
The flocks?
the possibility of outcome on everything.
Okay, well, this has nothing to do with flocks.
Well,
Police funding or any of
the
that.
fact that the
Police funding.
No police
the
funding.
database came up and that's all part of the funding, but the police and everything else.
Just
Okay.
the database only for this system, no other database,
Oh,
just
okay, yeah,
this.
yeah, that's when you correct that. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
To the chair.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
I move for the approval of the contract and proposal with BSNA Software with the implementation and first-year cost totaling $478,855 to be allocated from Fund 402 Capital Improvement.
Support.
Supported by trustee Reese. So the motion is for approval of the contract and proposal with BSNA Software with implementation and first-year costs totaling $478,855 to be allocated from Fund 402 Capital Improvement. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Reese.
Yes.
Trustee King.
Yes.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Trustee Taylor.
Yes.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Supervisor McCray.
Yes, motion carries. Well, Director Monrack, you're up again.
All right, the next thing before you is the approval of the creation of the Community and Economic Development Programs Administrator. This is a project that Director Mancini worked with our HR consultant, Karine Conley, and her team on to develop this job description and recommendations for you. And so any questions really about the role itself or its duties would really be best directed to Director Mancini. I'm the one who put it on the agenda simply because it flows through central operations as part of an HR function. But she developed this in coordination, as I said, with Karine Conley and the Raymond team. And this was approved by the Civil Service Commission in the same sense that your last meeting that you approved the crisis clinician, same process. But now, because it's a brand new position, in order for the position itself to be created, the board needs to approve it as well.
Okay, Director Mancini.
Good
Welcome.
evening, Honorable Board.
Good evening.
Yeah, so we have actually been talking about this position for some time, really ever since I was given the economic development role. This would be someone that would assist with economic development duties as far as like creating database outreach to businesses, those types of things. We added a community development aspect to it, in that part of the funding for this job would come, excuse me, from the CDBG block grant funding. So there's like an overlap in my office as far as what this employee would actually be doing. But the main goal is we're looking to have some additional economic development work that can be done that's difficult for me to do in addition to all the other stuff I got going on.
Questions from the board?
To the chair.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
So this will follow suit as far as going out internally and then,
Yeah, it's a maid position.
okay, that's what I thought. All right, thank you.
To the chair.
Trustee Taylor.
Director Mancini, this is partially funded through CDBG, and did I also read, I don't have it in front of me right now, DDA as well as partially funding this?
No, it'll be funded through the economic development and CDBG. The funding will come out of the DDA.
Will it be based on the amount of work that each department it utilizes the individual for, is like a percentage?
Correct. It's estimated at 50% each.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hopefully, it's more 60-40, something like that, because we really do have a lot of economic development ideas we want to implement. And so that would be the main focus.
Okay.
to begin with.
Thank you.
Other questions? Oh, go ahead. Trustee Jackson.
When you were talking about using the CBDG grant funds, are there any restrictions on what percentage has to be CBDG versus the other?
Yes, so through the grant, we actually have to document what they're working on. So the main thing that I would be using this individual for under that program would be assisting with housing redevelopment, our housing rehab program, taking in applications and processing applications, preparing forms and that kind of stuff, more as an assistance to the gentleman who's doing it now. He's out in the field a lot, checking on projects, doing the specs. So this would be the less technical part of that job that this person will be able to assist with.
Thank you.
To the chair.
Trustee Reese.
Director Mancini, so this role is focused on promoting economic development for the township. So do we have, like, beyond just the scope of the role, like, do we have metrics where we're saying we're hoping to achieve, we're hoping to see this kind of engagement or this kind of introduction of new businesses? Kind of what are the key things that this role will, because I know your capacity is used up with all your different hats you're wearing, but what is a metric of success, I guess, for this new role?
So there are a lot of plans that we have as far as creating a way to reach businesses. We've done it with the DDA businesses already, and I've used Ryan, who's a CDBG staff member, to do this previously in creating a list of all the businesses, contact information, what kind of business they do, how many employees they have, and we've linked it to the website as a business listing through the DDA. It's a searchable database. That took a lot of time, and it was just the DDA portion. So one of the first things I want this new person to do would be to create a township-wide database like that. So a lot of it can be done through the office using CoStar and different tools that we have, and then they have to follow up with each individual business to get specific questions answered, and then compile a list to get it onto the computer. So it's like a very long process. So that's one of the first things I want to have done. Also, the person would be responsible for keeping up on current commercial listings within the township, creating a database for that. I'd like to have it be a searchable database through the website. There are some, issues with sharing other websites, because they're all registered and you have to pay for them. So I don't know if we'll have to use external links or whatever, but that's all part of the process of gathering that information and creating that. And then, obviously there's a lot of businesses that, I just can't get out to. Something, might be going on and I want to check it out, but, we've got another project going and this person could be like a liaison for that. Meeting with businesses, seeing what their requests are and helping. We do get a lot of requests for people looking for property in the township that fit their needs, and so we do those searches and, just to help in that regard.
That's helpful. So a lot of it is we sort of have a lot of unknown areas as far as all the businesses, employees, employers, what they do, scope, available properties. And so this rule is trying to document everything so that if new businesses are looking at Redford, we can kind of quickly provide information about, hey, this commercial spot is open and it's, abuts these other businesses that are in similar market or whatever.
It also will create an efficiency, as far as knowing what's available, what's here, and once it's created, then it's a matter of just updating it. Just for an example, when COVID happened and they had all these business grants through the county and stuff, we had no way of reaching out to individual businesses, so we printed a bunch of flyers and at the community development office, there was 3 or 4 of us went out and we walked every business in the township over a period of 3 days. It was good on steps, but it was a waste of time. And we went into every business and gave them a flyer so they knew about this stuff. Where if we have a database like this, something like that comes out, we can send a mass email to all of the businesses at one time, and it'll be done in 15 minutes instead of over 3 days with 3 or 4 employees.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, and what is the hiring timeline you're looking for this position?
If it's approved, I'm gonna call HR tomorrow and see if they can take it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I ask a question? Wait a minute, wait till we finish the board. Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, Mr. Keenan, up to the microphone, please.
Well,
No, microphone.
All right. Just,
Name and address.
John Keenan, 2555 Old 5 Mile Road. My only question is, with these particular funds, is it possible to buy and redevelop real property in the township? And if so, was there some consideration with regard to purchasing the property that was recently sold by the Catholic Church on West Chicago and whatever that, West Chicago, what used to be St. Bellarmine's Church, it's now resold to another church and a school? That's my question.
Was there consideration?
Nothing.
Not at all.
No, not, well,
I mean, this,
no.
that's funny.
The answer no?
Yeah.
The answer is no.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
To the chair,
Trustee Taylor?
I move that we approve the creation of the Community and Economic Development Programs Administrator position.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Jackson, so the motion on the floor is the approval of the creation of the Community and Economic Development Programs Administrator. Any other questions? Roll call vote.
Trustee Taylor?
Yes.
Clerk Sanders, yes. Trustee Reed?
Yes.
Trustee King?
Yes.
Treasurer Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Supervisor McCray?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next we move, thank you. Next we move on to the first reading of ordinance 371, Article 2B, Section 2-246.427 definitions, boards, commissions, and committees. Trustee Jackson.
Based on the recommendation from our chair of the DEI Commission, I'm requesting that we revise the definition of equity to the universally accepted version of that definition and add the picture that shows the difference between equity and equality. I think it's one of the clearest examples of how to distinguish between the two. And if anybody has additional questions, our chair, Ms. Davenport, is here to answer them.
Okay, questions from the board?
To the chair.
Trustee Taylor.
So I know that this particular ordinance has just went under a recent change as of March 24th of this year. For the request of the chair, we did, upon that request, change the official name to add equity into the title. And there was also an opportunity to add the word equity throughout the entire text of the ordinance. We actually added it 11 different places, so it would all be cohesive with language. So every time we mentioned the Commission on Diversity and Inclusion, we also had it to say diversity, equity, and inclusion. The definition that we currently have in this ordinance was also added in March of 2023, because we did not have a definition when we first drafted this ordinance in 2020. So the definition that we added in 2023 that wasn't requested to be changed back in March, along with the other changes, from all the research that I could find, and I'm sure that maybe somebody could answer the question, even if it's Anjanette, that I could not find any, quote, universally accepted definition of equity. Every site that I went to, whether it was the NAACP, Oxford, Wikipedia, I mean, I checked out 5 different sites. They all have different variances of the definition of equity, all kind of pointing to the same thing when it comes to social context of using that word. And I would say the definition that we currently have, I think fits the context of the actual ordinance itself, because this ordinance is written to give direction to the commission as to their goals, what they do, what their purpose is, and within the township as a commission. And part of those, the duties are to advise on things like services, programs, and policies. And I think that that's why we used that definition originally, that equity in this context, not in a general overall universal or social context, but in this specific context. specific to the ordinance itself, it means here about implementation and impact of services, programs, and policies, that it's speaking to specifically. And I think that because that was the role of this commission, that's why that definition was written in that way. So I don't know what goes into, I mean, we've changed the language on this now, this would be 3 times. I understand that not every ordinance is perfect, as we know, as we just went through the one ordinance, that the language isn't gonna be absolutely finite, perfect the way that we want it. But I just wanna make sure that the process and the cost justify changing this yet again.
Okay, if you don't mind?
I don't mind.
Good. Please go up there and name and address and help clarify this for us.
Anjanette Davenport Hatter, 12811 Hemingway. And if at all possible, can you read the definition that's being proposed?
Sure. So what is being proposed is equity is the practice of ensuring fairness by acknowledging that people have different needs and face different challenges, then providing the specific support and resources required so everyone has a fair opportunity to succeed.
Thank you. And so the board knows that there's been a lot of turnover with the commission. And so there's been a lot of change of ideas and sort of a general approach to this commission. But there has to be some intentionality and purpose when we're looking at something such as equity. And when we're talking about equity, we're talking about making sure that people have access based on their need. And so I understand that, as is written, is in alignment with policy and services and programs. But when we're looking at how marginalized communities are impacted and not having access based on those marginalized differences, that's where we're trying to be more intentional with. If we're thinking about FAPE, free and appropriate access to public education, every student in the township of Redford has access, they have a right to education, they can go to school every day. But when you think about children with disabilities, that's why there's the IEPs, that's why there's the different titles, that's why there's 504s that are protected by state and federal government to make sure they have access. They may need a different type of instruction. If you think about restrooms, anybody can use a restroom in the township, but are they able to access the stall? Equity, making sure there's handrails, making sure there's braille. That access is the piece with the fairness and the justice. And so we're not looking to just have a blanket general definition. And in my training for my certification for diversity, equity, and inclusion, the universal acceptance is when we're looking at fairness, when we're looking at justice, when we're looking at meeting the need. And so that's why I wanted to make sure that that change was in there so that we could be done with that. It has been a lot of changes. It has been a lot of movement. But I think that governance piece has been finalized, and we're really ready to move forward with implementation. And this definition is the last piece of that puzzle. And so when we're looking at equity, we're looking at making sure that differing needs are met and that it's fair and that it's just. And that wasn't reflected in the previous definitions.
So if I can ask, so the original equity says equity means the provision, implementation, and impact of services, programs, and policies that challenge differences caused by marginalization based on race, gender, sexual orientation, and other aspects of a person's identity. You feel that that's more general than the one that you're proposing?
I feel that it's missing key concepts when we're looking at being intentional when we're addressing equity in the township.
Okay, thank you.
To the chair.
Trustee Reese.
So Anjanette, just to clarify, so when you talked about universally accepted is this exact definition as it's written here, that is the provided universally accepted definition, or you're saying universally accepted principles, and this is how you've distilled them?
Well, so when we're looking at universally accepted, we're looking at how it's accepted in the field. And so if you're not doing equity work, if you're not implementing equity every day, then it's just a word. But when you are looking at impacting lives of the residents of Redford, then you have to use a certain lens. When you're looking at policies, when we're looking at provisions, when we're looking at addressing needs. And so needs, fairness, just, you know, those are words that are synonymous with equity, and it's missing at this time.
So when you say just or justice, that's not in this definition.
Okay,
I'm just curious, so I guess my concern is, you're saying that the sort of field is developing, but we are in the business of making an ordinance that in theory will hold for
so,
years, I'll finish, and then, and so my concern is, like, I agree with Trustee Taylor, I feel we've actually stepped into a broader definition. So previously, you know, the township has a scope, there's local, there's state, there's federal. And you noted there's ADA, there's federal programs, there's state programs for public school, there's lots of different good programs that help residents get the services they need. The township has a very defined local scope, and I think saying equity means the provision, implementation, and impact of services, that's something, we have services, programs, we have programs, and policies, and we institute policies that challenge, so that push against differences caused by marginalization based on race, gender, sexual orientation, and other aspects of a person's identity. Those are immutable characteristics. I think everyone agrees we should work to help people based on those. But when we get into equity is the practice of ensuring fairness by acknowledging that people have different needs, true, and face different challenges, true. Then providing specific support and resources, doesn't define what those are. We don't know if those are policies, we don't know. Required so that everyone has a fair opportunity to succeed. Fairness and a fair opportunity to succeed are very, very hard to, I think, for a township at our scale to define, like, it feels overbroad to me. And that's my concern. I think I'm open to, you know, specific changes. If you're saying justice is a word that's key and it's missing there. But I'm concerned, especially in light of the political environment we're in, there's an executive order about federal funds being banned for communities and organizations that do anything that they think crosses the 14th Amendment, which is the Equal Protections Clause. There have been cases of that, schools, districts losing grants, funding because of that. And so I'm worried that this change could open us up to some of those potential federal risks. So that's what I'll say for now.
so mind you, equity has been a part of this commission for quite some time. And so if there's a fear of losing federal funding, I think it would have come well before this proposed change. And we could go, you know, all day about, you know, words, but as the chair, my role is to lead this commission and using an equity lens. And so when your work is around using an equity lens, it makes perfect sense. When your work is not using an equity lens, it doesn't make sense. And so we've made the proposal for the change. I believe that it's a more intentional approach and making sure we're addressing that the different needs are being met, has been addressed. And it's up to the board to make their decision.
Well, I guess a couple things that I would like to ask. I will say I'm very happy with the commission and they've done a lot of good things. So I want to thank you for that. And the commission, you can share that with them. I'm understanding what everybody's saying, but I'm wondering, one is that every time we make a change, it costs us money. And it's not $50 or $100, right? So I'm wondering, the way that it is right now, does this negatively reflect on the commission, or is it detrimental to the commission the way it is now? I mean, is this good and we're just trying to improve it, or is this not good and we need to fix it? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay.
And like I said, with my training,
Okay.
and with the definition as it stands, it doesn't accurately reflect commissions.
Okay. And I have one other question. Part of the reason we postponed doing this, if I recall right, Trustee Jackson, was because of cost.
Right.
You know, we postponed this, and I guess in my mind, and maybe not yours, and I'm not speaking for you, is that we were not gonna do anything with this until there were other changes that needed to be made so that it would be economical and we
Right,
could
I
do all at
understand.
once.
Mhm.
So I don't, or Sanders, I don't wanna put you on the spot, but do you know about how much it costs to make a change in this kind of a document, whatever the change is?
Well, when we run these, we're not changing specific,
Yeah.
and it's by wording. So I believe the cost that we were quoted was upwards of 1,000.
Okay. So, to make the changes that were asked, including the picture, right?
Yes, also.
About around 1,000.
Yes.
So that's why I asked if it was detrimental or not. You know, I don't claim to be an expert. I didn't have a class.
I mean, you guys are,
Well,
I'm presenting my expert.
oh yeah, okay, that's why I'm asking.
But, you
That's
know.
why I'm asking you, all right? Because
I stand on
I'm
it.
not the expert.
Mhm.
Now, if, that's why I asked the way I did,
Mhm.
that, is this something we want to spend $1,000 do right now because it's a must? Or do we want to, I don't have the answer to that. I mean, that's up to the
Chair.
board. But who's,
So,
Trustee
Chair
Jackson,
first.
or who, would you say?
I was me.
Okay,
So,
go ahead, whoever's first.
Anjanette, when you brought all those changes to me back in January to add the word, this would be the first time in January that you sent me a whole list of where you wanted the word equity inserted, and we made a couple of other changes too. And it was put on, in the March meeting on that, when we made a huge change to all of the boards and commissions ordinance, which this now falls under. Is there a reason back then, having already had that equity definition in front of you for as long as you've been chair, that now is the time, after we've already made all those changes, that you've decided it was important to address it now and not back when we made the changes to add equity to begin with? How did that not pop out at you then?
Right, and so at that time, I hadn't been chair for long. And there was a lot of transition, there was a lot of movement, there was a lot of changes, and so it was missed.
Okay, just that simple, it was just missed. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and had I had more time in the role, had it not been, disconjointed at the time.
Yeah.
Then we would have had more of a smoother transition and
Okay.
better organization.
Thank you.
Treasurer Kavanaugh.
Director Bonner, money. Where, if you can explain some of the money portion as to where that might be coming out of, how much do they have, if it's from the commission, how is that working?
I doubt, I don't have the commission's budget in front of me, but I doubt we have money allocated in the commission's budget for this purpose. Especially given that we just spent money on this less than 6 months ago to amend this ordinance. So I mean, at least to me, I wonder if it makes me wonder whether or not, ordinances obviously have to be published. Is there a different way to address this need that doesn't require ordinance changes? You know what I mean? Like, could the commission come forward to the board and ask for approval of a statement of, definitions and practices that, is included on the website? Something that still has to go before the board, but doesn't necessarily require us every time there's been a change in the research or the data to change the whole ordinance, right? Because at this point, how do we know that 6 months from now, we're not gonna be changing this ordinance again? So is there a way to make this a little more, just come up with a different way to address this that doesn't require a change of the ordinance, but still addresses the needs that she's identified regarding the definition of equity?
So maybe something in the interim and see if there's any other additional changes that may come up within the next 6 months or so in order to at least introduce this in some sort of fashion, correct?
I think, I mean, from my perspective, from looking for financial efficiency, I think that's a fantastic thing. I think if we were able to say to the boards and commissions that, you know, once a year in January, if your board and commission has an item that you think needs to be addressed, let's try to do it all at once so that we're achieving cost savings and efficiency instead of trying to do it piecemeal. And then we could ask people to kind of accrue that list of items for the board to consider in one swoop.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
To the chair.
Thank you.
Trustee Jackson.
If I'm hearing the financial end of this correctly, the cost is the same whether you do 1 at a time or 10 at a time. The
No.
cost per item would be the same.
If I'm understanding right, Crystal?
No, it's not per item. I mean, it's per.
I mean, per ordinance
Yes.
would be the same.
Yeah, so it's not like a bundle deal, like if you put multiple ones, you get one price. It is per the word.
That's what I thought, so.
But just to clarify, but I think, Trustee Jackson, I think because, do you get to just publish the one paragraph, or do you have to publish this entire ordinance?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe you published the whole ordinance.
So if there were other changes within this multi-page ordinance, then
Got
we
it.
would have
Right,
efficiencies,
but
right?
But other commissions having changes is not going to affect the cost per ordinance.
No, it wouldn't. I meant more in the sense of it would, you know, like, it would be just kind of that exercise of using the attorney's time to do the review, making sure they're kind of creating that list. It's just, it would kind of then also prompt us to make sure that we're reviewing our ordinances on a regular basis, right?
Economies of scale,
Yeah,
but not individual costs.
right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Yeah.
Because if, it doesn't sound like, you know, it sounds like, AJ, and forgive me for saying that, but it sounds like she believes that with her experience in education, something needs to be done with this, what you propose. How can we do this in a way that, at this point, we don't have to have the expense to change the ordinance, we can do something
In the interim.
in the interim to have it, but not there. And you can publish it, you can use it, right?
So my thing is, being a part of a marginalized community that's been historically oppressed, it is incumbent upon me to ensure that it is archived accurately. And so if there's something that can happen in the interim,
Yeah.
where it's archived, people, residents of the township can click on it and can see it, and it can live somewhere in the public, I'm okay with that.
Oh, okay. So who wants to?
What do we call it?
Okay, well, no, hold on, no.
Are we
So-
pioneering something?
Well, no, but I think that we need to find out who on the board wants to work on this to make sure it happens. Not just say, okay, somebody else go figure it out, because then it tends to get lost. So, I don't know,
Can that be done inside of this motion? I mean, what we have on the agenda, or
Yeah.
how do you handle?
No.
no, you're asking for a reading.
No, that's what I'm saying, but so the reading itself is
Postpone.
postponed, okay.
It's not there,
To
so,
the chair.
yes, Mr. Taylor.
When we go onto the township website, we have a list of all of the commissions listed and their purpose and definitions. Wouldn't it be just something as simple as having, I don't know if it's Jennifer, that upstate that information, that we update the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Commission to reflect just the definition of each one of those words within the definition of the commission itself. So that is, if somebody goes to the website, that's what they see, because nobody reads our ordinances. I mean, it's just
Well, we
fact.
hope somebody does.
Well,
Personally, for
Unless they
my,
have
Just said that out loud.
So I mean, that would be like the first place, and then of course your social media pages, all of that, any of your documentation for like, you know, all of those bases. So when somebody says, what is diversity, equity, inclusion, that we have that continuity from our website, first and foremost, in those definitions, to your Facebook page, to your Instagram page.
I
What are
think that would be a
handouts?
wonderful resource, Trustee
As an
Taylor.
interim?
Yes.
Yeah.
On your site. And I think, you know, I mean, for what it's worth, the township website is under
I don't
review
wanna-
right now for a full
I don't wanna
refresh.
have change.
So this is a project that Jennifer Miracle Best is working on right now. And, you know, I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, I have several marginalized staff on my team. I think they would love to work, I think she would love to work on something for this
Yep.
page in particular that would show resources and ways for
We'll have the
people to have a
picture on your-
better understanding
web.
of all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The picture's great. I'm
And I
like,
really
that's
think
really
that would
great.
get more traffic
Yeah.
than what our actual ordinance will, because people
Well-
have to know how to find the ordinance, even know that there's one that exists,
I
where
just-
I think the website gets more traffic
Hits.
from our
Mm-hmm.
residents than our ordinances do. So you'd actually get more visibility, and then because all of our commissions and boards are under this one ordinance now, like you said, I think it would be good to send out at the end of the year, notice for anyone that needs to update the ordinance or
Change, yeah.
bylaws, you know, do it now.
Right.
And we can work that into the budget
Yeah.
to where we have that money available.
So, in my opinion, I want to take your expertise and your education and put it to use. It's just a matter of how we're going to do it. I think this will be a good start. And when you do your stuff, you can have it as it is here, and we will put it on the website with the little picture, which I think is really good. It says, picture's worth 1,000 words, that's one of them pictures, right?
Literally, because it's thousands of changes.
So, you know, if the board is not objecting to that, I don't hear anybody doing that.
And just to be clear,
Yep.
that this is an interim, and then eventually when there's more
Yeah,
commission
sure.
changes.
To the chair.
Sure.
Yep.
So we could really postpone or table this item until like the next fiscal year or whatever. We
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
literally table
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
till
That way it can be in the budget.
2027,
Yeah.
like January 2027, we could table this specific item.
Does
And
that
then
work
have
for
all
you?
the commissions come back
As
at
we
that
move
time.
forward with the website and
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
So that works
Yeah.
for now.
That is acceptable.
Oh, that's okay, that's what I meant, it's acceptable,
Yes.
okay. So, we need a motion to table this until the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
To the chair.
Trustee Jackson,
I move that we postpone the first reading to amend ordinance 371, Article 2-D, Section 2-246.27, definitions, board, commissions, and committees until January of 2027.
Support.
been moved and supported, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Motion left.
Oh, there.
Okay.
Okay. Next, Clerk Sanders, you're up.
Okay, so, what I am seeking is approval from the board to move precinct 11. Now, this is a new precinct that we did take on. This was a precinct that was already in process. So the Pastor Bridges was, he was a great hostess for hosting the election in August. But the facility and also some other things that arose during this election was parking. He did mention to me that his school does not close for elections, and the teachers did have concerns about sharing the parking lot. That was one thing. And then another was they also host, because he's active within the community, so he hosts a lot of things at his location. And there were also ongoing other events that particular day that I was not aware of, so, which also occupied the parking lot. And also some other issues that were going on with the facility. So what I am asking is that we move precinct 11 from the church and we put it at Jefferson Elementary. I was waiting to hear back from the administration, which I heard back today, which is why I had to amend the agenda to place it on here, because we have to have it done by state by September 4th in order, so we don't miss the deadline, in order to move it for this election for November. So I bring before you this situation here, of moving precinct 11 and putting it to Jefferson Elementary and moving it from Commonwealth Faith Church.
To the chair.
Trustee Taylor.
I move that we change the polling location for precinct 11 from the Commonwealth of Faith Church to Jefferson Elementary, effective beginning with the November 3rd, 2026 general election and continuing for all subsequent elections until further action by the board.
Support. Moved and supported, so the motion on the floor is approval for changing polling location for precinct 11 from Commonwealth of Faith Church to Jefferson Elementary, effective beginning with the November 3rd, 2026 general election and continuing for all subsequent elections until further action by the board. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements from the board.
To the chair.
Trustee Reese.
Just a comment for all the residents, thank you for being here. I want to note, again, we have a lot of presentations, a lot of big packets. You can go on redfordtwp.gov and view those. We typically have a QR code on this. I know we had an amended agenda, so I just, when you make changes, it's hard to get that on. The QR code you can scan with your phone in the meeting and pull it up. So the goal is that, you know, it's hard to follow along when we're going through a 59-page PDF that you can't see. So I encourage you to pull those up and get those on your phone. It helps, it makes it a lot more engaging. And glad you could all be here.
Any other announcements from the board? Well, I just got a couple. I guess I want to start off by saying that this is a very diverse board. Nobody on this board is a yes person. And we try our best in heated debates at times to respect one another. And part of the good thing about this board is that everybody has different thoughts and ideas. It helps round us and brings new things to the board. So I don't think that any board member that voted the way that somebody didn't like it, you don't have to like it. I mean, you can, you know, run against that person. You can say, I don't like it. I like everything you do, but I didn't like that decision. Because if we took that approach, we'd never get anything done because we make a lot of votes here every year and we would be in chaos. So I feel bad that Treasurer Kavanaugh had to make that kind of a statement because she's worked here a long time and she's done a lot of good things. And let's remember all the things, not just one that you don't like. So take that for what it's worth. On a better note, Beach Daily Road is open. So I want to thank Mike Dennis and all the people that worked on that and continue to work to put the CSO in to make things better for us in the township. I think they got it done quicker than I thought they would. That was an unexpected cut that we had to put in the road. And lastly but not least, I want to say happy anniversary to my wife. On Friday, we celebrated 33 years of marriage. So if no other business comes before the board, we're adjourned.
When do you want to talk about the debt program?